Hello and welcome to the Columbia Daily Tribune's Behind the Stripes webcast. This is Tribune sports editor Joe Waljesper along with Tribune football beat writer David Morrison. David, heading into Missouri's first game of the year against Murray State Racers. Missouri puts out its game week depth chart on Monday. Really very few changes from the depth chart they started with when camp began. Just any thoughts on what you saw out of it?
I mean, the biggest news, obviously, is Shane Ray being an or starter with Michael Sam at one of the defensive end spots.
You know, if that's your biggest news, it was not a newsy depth chart.
Right, that is correct. And I mean, that's not even that shocking because, you know, he was nominally Sam's backup during camp, but you could see, especially in the third scrimmage, he wasn't even doing second team reps. He was, you know, kind of cycling in and out with Sam on the first team. And, you know, he's always, throughout the whole camp, Ray was on that kind of three defensive end set that they do where they bump Ely inside and have Ray come in as the rush end. So, I mean, he's always been kind of like a 1B starter at that spot. So it really isn't that big of a deal. But, yeah, like you said, no news is no news, I guess, in the depth chart.
Well, I'd say no news is good news from the standpoint of starters didn't get hurt. And so that was probably the biggest deal, that if everybody that was starting in the beginning of camp is still starting, that means they're not walking around with casts on their legs and et cetera. So that's probably a good sign. But nobody really jumped. There wasn't anybody that I would really call a breakout star of preseason camp that I could think of.
I mean, the biggest mover was Ernest Payton at cornerback because at the beginning of camp he was kind of the sixth or seventh guy among the whole cornerback mess, and now he's second behind E.J. Gaines and probably the third option at cornerback, just kind of looking at the depth chart. You know, John Gibson got his shot when E.J. first went out with the patellar tendon, and he kind of fumbled it during letting LaDainian Washington go by him during scrimmage, and Peyton kind of stepped up and took that spot. So, I mean, yeah, he was kind of the biggest mover, I guess, besides Kentrell Brothers, who, you know, emerged from the weak side linebacker position and really kind of seized it from Darvin Ruiz.
Okay. Heading into the season, is there one spot you think is of the greatest concern to Missouri?
Yeah, we're going to go back to the secondary for that one because it's just beyond E.J. Gaines, there's not really anybody who seems like a proven above-average option back there. You know, you've got Randy Ponder and Matt White, who have some starting experience. They're experienced players. They're seniors. They've been in the system a while. You got Braylon Webb, who's started 16 career games, but, you know, he's been kind of up and down and, you know, will make a play but let some big plays up too. And then past that, you got a bunch of freshmen and sophomores who have either never played or have barely played since they've been here. So, I mean, it's an important position, obviously. It's kind of the last line of defense on the defense. I didn't anticipate that play of words there. Anyway, but yeah, and there's just a lot of inexperience at that spot. So I feel like that's a big question mark still entering the season.
And it might be tested fairly early on as we move on to our final topic. Murray State's coming to town, and they're not a great program, even at the FCS level. They're kind of a middle of the pack. I think they were 5-6 last year. But one thing they can do is throw the ball. At least they could throw the ball last year. They do have a new quarterback. Do you see this as any sort of concern game for Missouri? Obviously, it's not a game where anybody in that locker room is getting wildly excited about playing Murray State, but do you think there's any sort of upset risk from Murray State?
Not really. I mean, like you said, they have a very prolific offense. They run the air raid, or at least a form of the air raid, where they just throw the ball all over the field. I think they ran like 3.15 plays a minute per time of possession last year, which is just like light speed, basically. But the defense was just so bad and should still be so bad that, you know, if you've got an offense that goes that fast and is that prolific, the defense has to kind of keep up with it, and Murray State's couldn't last year and probably can't this year either. So, I mean, it's going to be an opportunity for Missouri's offense to really kind of dip its toes in the water against a team that's going to give up a lot of yards and going to give up a lot of points. I mean, I think they gave up 69 to Florida State to start the season last year, and Missouri might not be at the Florida State level, but they can still probably put 48 or 50 on them, I would think.
Yeah, I think, well, for any FCS program to pull off an upset, you're probably better off, you know, if you're a passing team, because I don't think anybody at that level is going to be able to grind out victories running the ball against a Division I team. But I don't know of a team that's lopsided as far as their defense being that weak. I think they're going to have trouble keeping Missouri probably under 50 points if that's really the case, unless they've dramatically improved. I think they have kind of ditched a lot of their previous coaches, so et cetera. But I don't know how much improvement you can make from one year to the next to where you're not going to be exposed a bit on that side. They have one very prolific receiver that is from the state of Missouri, so might be a little more motivated. Not a kid Missouri really recruited, named Walter Powell, who I believe had 1,200 yards last year. So he's someone to watch. And then their quarterback is a transfer from Ole Miss. Mikhail Miller is the name, who I've never seen play, but at least at one point was considered a Division I talent. So
and then even their run game, they have Jamal Berry, who's an Ohio State transfer, and I think when they used him last year, he was pretty effective. He ran for 700 yards, 6.5 yards a carry. So I mean, they have a lot of FBS transfers on the team. It's just I don't think that really equates to keeping up with an FBS team.
Right. Okay, well, tune in next week when we will discuss a little bit about that Murray State game, but mostly look forward to Missouri's game against Toledo.